questions. Questions orales. The honourable member for Regina Capel.
The Prime Minister's deal with Canadians was elect him and he would get us a win on tariffs. Since then, he's taken over 20 trips, which might be worth it if he actually came home with better deals, but he's not. After meeting with the U.S., tariffs are even higher than before. After meeting with China, we now have new tariffs on grain and seafood. India put new tariffs on peas after their meeting. He claimed to have some kind of special ability that would result in new trade deals, but it turns out he's not that special. He's just another Liberal. Will the Prime Minister admit that he's trailing on fade, or is making things worse part of some genius strategy?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, today our government took another step forward in our commitment to double non-U.S. trade over the next decade and diversify our economy. While in the UAE, the Prime Minister signed a foreign investment promotion and protection agreement to create a more predictable environment for two-way investments. And we launched negotiations for Canada-UAE Comprehensive Economic Partnership Trade Deal. This agreement would cut tariffs, remove trade barriers, and expand market access for Canadian exporters. With a signed FIPA and launch of CEPA, we are opening doors, creating new markets, and creating opportunities for Canadian workers and businesses, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Regina Capel.
That's such a typical Liberal, eh? Things are always just about to start getting better. Meanwhile, actual tariffs keep going up. Now, one way to increase trade with other countries would be with a pipeline to British Columbia's west coast. But the Liberals killed Northern Gateway in 2016, resulting in billions in lost opportunities for Canadian workers and businesses. Now there's talk of reviving that pipeline, but of course, if the shipping ban stays in place, no one will be able to actually export what comes through the pipe. The Liberals made it illegal to ship Canadian energy off Canada's west coast. Does that law also ban U.S. tankers from traveling through the same area?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, Canada has a tremendous opportunity to be a leading energy superpower. This government was elected to deliver nation-building projects, strengthen our economy, reinforce Canadian autonomy, advance Indigenous prosperity while contributing to clean growth. We are working with all the provinces, including Alberta, to achieve these shared objectives. The federal government has been engaged in constructive talks with the government of Alberta, and we will have more to say in a few weeks.
The Honourable Member for Regina Capel.
Again, after 10 years, we're just on the cusp of things all coming together, Mr. Speaker. But I can answer the question that the Minister didn't answer himself. The answer is no. While the Liberals have made it illegal for Canadian companies to load Canadian ships with Canadian oil, U.S. tankers can continue to travel off BC's coast and take their oil to countries around the world. As we speak, the U.S. crude oil tanker California is traveling from Tacoma to Alaska along that west coast. Why are the Liberals keeping in a law that prevents Canada from exporting our oil while U.S. tankers travel through the exact same place?
I know the honourable member across the aisle is not happy, but the Premier of Alberta has said she's quite supportive of what we're doing and is looking forward to finishing the conversations with the Prime Minister.
L'honorable député de Charlebourg.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, since the Prime Minister took office, he has made over 20 international trips under the guise of wanting to make Canada wealthier, but he has accomplished the complete opposite. During his 4 trips around the world, Donald Trump's tariffs have doubled, tariffs on aluminum are at 50%, tariffs on lumber have tripled, and thousands of Canadians have lost their jobs. Every time he travels, we're slapped with new tariffs. Can the Prime Minister put his passport away so he can stay in Canada and take care of Canada? The Honourable Minister of Canada-U.S. Trade. Mr. Speaker, our colleague knows full well that our government was elected to take care of trade with other countries around the world. We have a very ambitious plan. That's the plan Canadians voted for during the election. My colleague may be a bit confused. Often, a government leader travels, for instance, the trip to the United Arab Emirates, where, good news, we signed a very big, important deal with that important investor, and we will continue to work for the Canadian economy. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Well, you were elected under false pretenses. You said that you would fix things with Donald Trump, and they've totally failed, Mr. Speaker. Meanwhile, there are issues with the Canada Revenue Agency. The cost of bureaucracy in Canada has risen by over 80% since the Liberals came to power, and now there are hundreds of thousands of Canadians who can't access their files online. Nearly 1 million Canadians can't access their files online. Callers to the CRA are receiving false information. The minister said that he would fix that. Can he update us on his progress? The Honourable Minister for Government Transformation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm happy to inform my colleague that, as was announced by the Finance Minister in the fall, we have a 100-day plan to ensure that Canadians receive reliable, accurate, quick service from the Canada Revenue Agency. We doubled call centre capacity at the CRA. 10% of Canadians Canadian callers get an answer within 10 minutes, and no one has to call the CRA to access their file anymore. Everyone has access to their file, so the Minister of Finance's plan is working well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Sure, well, let's talk about that then. Former Minister Diane Leboutillier in 2015 made cuts, and they just cut at the CRA. But it gets worse, Mr. Speaker. Canadians every day visit us in our riding offices to tell us about the problems they're having with the CRA. Sometimes they cry. They say, we can't access CRA services. I'm trying to handle things with my taxes. I had to try 4 times before we was able to fix things. So can the government acknowledge that this is an emergency situation? It's very serious. And can they fix the mess at the CRA? The Honourable Minister, that's exactly what we're doing, Mr. Speaker. We acknowledge that Canadians have the right to quick, accurate, reliable CRA services, but now the portal is working. Also, as for calls, 10% of callers have access to support agent within 15 minutes, and we fix the problem of people not accessing their files. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister had 2 choices this week. First choice, go to Brazil to COP30 and show that he's not completely giving up on the fight against climate change. Choice number 2, go to the Middle East and make deals with petro-monarchies. What did he choose? The petro-monarchies. Just like he chose oil companies in the budget by offering them billions in tax credits and exempting them from a cap on their greenhouse gas emissions. And to think that before the Prime Minister got into politics, he promoted green finance. Does the Prime Minister realize that by betraying his values, he's also betraying the former director of Équiterre, who sits to his right? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister did indeed have a choice regarding what to do this week. What did he choose? He chose to be here in the House 2 times to vote for our historic budget. It's historic for Quebecers. It's historic for Canadians. This Prime Minister will always act in the best interests of Canada. He will always act to get good opportunities for Canada. He will always work to build and to improve opportunities for Canada, and especially for Quebecers, Mr. Speaker. The Bloc Québécois should do the exact same. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, while the Prime Minister boycotted the Conference of Parties to meet with sultans in Abu Dhabi, Canada received a volley of criticism. Nearly 2,000 organizations from around the world awarded Canada the Fossil of the Day Award for backtracking in the fight against climate change. Canada is a world champion of pollution. Interestingly enough, the last time Canada received the Fossil Award was in 2014. We remember that at that time, the Canadian Prime Minister was also boycotting the COP. It was Stephen Harper at the time. Is this a coincidence, or is this because the Liberals are setting us back 10 years? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, the United Arab Emirates are among the top investors in renewable energy, among the top investors in the world. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is true to his kind in snubbing the Conference of Parties to meet with petro-monarchies. Because what is Canada? It is a petro-monarchy. That's Canada's identity. Canada received a Fossil Award at the COP. Just like other petro-monarchies, Canada ranked 61st out of 67 countries in the Climate Performance Index alongside petro-monarchies. And today the Liberals again want to backtrack and work with Alberta to build a new dirty oil pipeline. That's Canadian identity, Mr. Speaker. But the Minister of Canadian Identity, meanwhile, he didn't used to support that. So how can he support it today? The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change. Mr. Speaker, I was there at the Conference of Parties. I met with environmental organizations from around the world. They told us that Canada has an important role and is playing an important role in fighting climate change and bringing countries together. Not only that, but we are building Canada strong. We are working with other countries who want our clean, green energy. We have clean energy to sell, and we are ready to make those deals.
Calgary, Midnapore.
In 2006, the Harper government saw the need for an independent parliamentary fiscal watchdog, and boy, were they right. In his budget brief last week, the PBO reminded the Prime Minister of the Liberals' own words just last November, that reducing the federal debt to GDP ratio over the medium term is key, not only for fiscal sustainability, but also to preserve Canada's AAA credit rating. Well, less than a year later, and the alarm bells are ringing. How many more times does this Prime Minister need to be reminded to rein in his spending of taxpayers' dollars?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, earlier today in this chamber, the member for Calgary Midnapore said the Prime Minister's loyalty was not to Canada or to Canadians. That is a direct quote. I would invite her to retract that statement at this very time.
Apologize. The Honourable Member for Calgary Midnapore.
The Prime Minister's costly credit card budget loads reckless spending today on tomorrow's taxpayers, something an economist should know. After
Okay. Let's listen. The Honourable Member for Calgary Midnapore may continue, please. Continue.
this Prime Minister's loyalties are to Brookfield. Spending today onto tomorrow's taxpayers, something an economist should know. After 10 years of these Liberals, Canadians are being forced to put nearly 50% more of their personal expenses on credit cards, a result of Liberal financial failures. Fitch Ratings has warned that because the Liberals are ignoring their own fiscal...
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I don't think debate in this chamber is served by challenging a Prime Minister who has stood up for public service in Canada, challenging his patriotism or his service to his country. I know that member doesn't believe those things. I would invite her to restrain her comments with respect to the Prime Minister's feelings about the country and about the people that he serves, and I would once again invite her to retract those comments.
The Honourable Member for Regina Luban.
After 10 years of reckless spending by these Liberals, Canadians have forced to put 50% more of their expenses on credit cards since 2015. It's so bad that the Budget Watchdog has condemned the Liberal spending, saying, and I quote, "It's unsustainable and shocking." When will the Prime Minister finally put an end to his out-of-control spending spree so Canadians can put food on their table?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, on one side of the House, we have continued, tired, old rhetoric. The same questions that question a Prime Minister with world-class business and economic experience versus a leader from the Conservatives that has been in this House for 20 years, hasn't had a job outside of this House. On this side of the House, we're focused on building a strong economy. We're focused on making historic investments in infrastructure, defense, housing, transport. Mr. Speaker, on this side, we're serious about the economy. They continue with the same old, tired rhetoric.
The Honourable Member for Regina Luban.
That minister should be tired of having a reckless record when it comes to CRA and fix the CRA before he fixes anything else. That's right. The agency that gives the government its credit score says that since the Liberal government frequently ignores their fiscal anchors, the federal finances run into a further risk of deteriorating. A simple question to the Prime Minister is, when will he take his job seriously and get Canada's finances back on track so that Canadians can afford a life?
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, on April 28th, Canadians had a choice to make between two visions for the country. One was a vision of slogans and divisiveness. On this side, our Prime Minister, with world-class business and economic experience, had a plan to build our country, to invest in our country, to build our country by Canadians, for Canadians. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we are serious about building a stronger Canada, a Canada for everyone. That side is not. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Dufferin-Caledon.
Well, a Prime Minister who describes himself as a European is giving $500 million to the European Space Agency to create good jobs in Europe. And it gets worse because the Harwell Science and Innovation Campus, where the European Space Agency will be is located in the UK, is 50% owned by Brookfield. Rather than focusing on lining the pockets of Brookfield and not ripping off Canadian workers, why don't they invest in Canada?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Industry.
Mr. Speaker, it's unfortunate that the other side doesn't recognize the key role that space investments play in our country, in our national innovation, especially in a critical year for Space for Canada, where we're sending not one but two astronauts into space. This is an incredibly exciting time for Canada and Canadians to be inspired by the potential of space and space in our economy, and I hope the other side reconsiders their opposition to this.
For Dufferin-Caledon.
It's an incredibly exciting time if you're a shareholder in Brookfield right now, let me tell you, with all the slimy contracts that these guys are giving to companies affiliated with Brookfield. Meanwhile, we have 2.2 million Canadians lining up at food banks. Meanwhile, we have a 6.9% unemployment rate. And what do they decide to do? Invest $500 million to give jobs to Europe. How is the priority of this government to give jobs to Europeans when there's a 6.9% unemployment in Canada and 2.2 million people using a food bank? Justify that.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, when it comes to the most innovative things that we can do as a country, we often do them together and with other countries. So, for instance, a former member of this House, a former minister in this former government, the Honourable late Marc Garneau, he went on an American spacecraft, and there was a key piece of Canadian technology that was deployed as part of that, the Canadarm, a piece of technology on which we should all be proud on both sides of this House. So as we continue to cooperate with our European partners on this, let's see the bigger picture and see how the benefits can come to Canada with this investment.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent, Aquia-Winrac. Mr. Speaker, for the past 10 years, since the Liberals took office, bureaucracy has ballooned by 80%, yet quality of public services has not improved in tandem. In fact, 950,000 calls were made to the Canada Revenue Agency last year because Canadians could not access online CRA services or their own files. That's the result of 10 years of Liberal management and government. It's the same in my county and in my riding, and I'm sure it's the same in all of the members' riding offices. There are dozens of calls each week to our riding offices from constituents who are struggling in dealing with the CRA. That's the situation after 10 years. Why aren't they fixing it? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Mr. Speaker, it's true that the situation at the CRA was unacceptable, so our government took swift action to deliver quick, effective, reliable service to Canadians. And now our plan is working. It's true, we have doubled call center capacity. Now 10% of callers receive a reply within 15 minutes, and all Canadians have access to their MyCRA account online without having to call the CRA. So our plan is working, and there's the proof. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Drummond. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Heritage doesn't care at all about private media. There were 800 layoffs at Québecor. The minister stands idly by. Cogeco and Bell Media call for help. The minister won't lift a finger. He's as indifferent to the media crisis as the Prime Minister is to the climate crisis, Mr. Speaker. Does the minister realize that his indifference and stubborn refusal to support private broadcasters worsens the media crisis? The Honourable Minister of Identity and Canadian Culture. Mr. Speaker, I have the utmost respect for my Bloc Québécois colleague, but the Bloc is acting like a firefighter who sets fires and then puts it out themselves. They say, oh, there's a fire, but then they are throwing oil on the fire. How so? Well, they voted against our budget, which would give $38 billion to local media, $150 million to Radio-Canada CBC. That would help media across the country. That would help with local culture and content production in Quebec and throughout the country. What did they do, Mr. Speaker? They voted it down. The Honourable Member for Drummond. Well, this is a former environmentalist speaking. Very interesting. Now, the government just scrapped the digital services tax. It could have funded a fund to support diversity of information and Quebec culture. The government isn't doing a thing for private broadcasters, and when the government is asked about it, they reply, oh, well, we're funding the public sector, as if the broadcasting system were only public, and too bad for the private sector. This prompted columnist Yasmin Abdel-Fadel to say that the minister spat on TVA artists who lost their jobs. What will it take for the minister to jump to action and help private broadcasters? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, in the budget tabled by my colleague, the Minister of Finance, there are tax credits for local journalism. The Bloc voted against it. There are initiatives for local journalism. The Bloc Québécois voted against that, Mr. Speaker. In the budget, there's $150 million for our public broadcaster. The Bloc Québécois voted nay. That's the biggest content producer of culture in Quebec. The Bloc Québécois voted against that. How do they have the gall, the nerve to rise in this place and tell us that we're not supporting journalism, that we're not supporting Quebec culture? That is outrageous, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable-Lotbinière. It's no secret we are dealing with the most costly government in Canadian history. Each and every dollar that this Prime Minister spends without any restraint, Mr. Speaker, means that there's no more money in Canadians' pockets. Canadians are dealing with food insecurity. What does that mean, Mr. Speaker? It means that Canadians cannot afford groceries. In this budget, the Prime Minister chose to increase the price of fuel with hidden taxes. Why does the Prime Minister want to make food even more expensive for Canadians who are already struggling to pay for it? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It's always so fascinating to hear the Conservatives in question period day after day repeating the same talking points, the Conservative leaders' talking points. They're talking about imaginary taxes. Yet when it comes to voting for a tax break of $22 billion for 22 billion Canadians, or a school food program for vulnerable Canadians, when it comes to investing in defence, when it comes to investing in productivity, infrastructure like the Port of Quebec, the Port of Saguenay, investing in defence, investing in industry like the Davie shipyard in Quebec, they are absent. They don't vote for any of that. It's really shameful, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable-Lotbinière. Well, you heard it, Mr. Speaker. He just listed off the endless, limitless spending that the government has put in its budget. That's what Liberals are. Meanwhile, more and more Canadians have to use their credit cards to feed themselves. They have to eat on credit. They have to empty their bank accounts to have to eat. And for 80% of Canadians, the cost of food is the most costly item for their budget. The Prime Minister, meanwhile, just keeps spending and spending, hiking the price of food. Why are the Liberals determined to make Canadians poorer when 25% of Canadians are already too poor to feed themselves? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, it is unbelievable to hear the opposition talk about limitless spending. And in the same breath, they talk about the school food program that would have decreased child hunger by 40% in Canada. There are plenty of people who would have benefited from that in his riding. Another example, the Canada Dental Care Program, it would have helped thousands of people in his riding. It's shameful. It's outrageous. I invite him to change his mind. I know, though, that deep within himself, he's probably happy that his leader was hiding behind the budget, and he was hoping that the budget would pass because it's a great budget and he knows it. The Honourable Member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals just managed to make their budget squeak by this week. It is the highest deficit budget in Canadian history. They are recklessly spending future generations of Canadians' money. In fact, the main budget pressure for 80% of Canadians is food, and 25% of Canadian households are struggling to purchase food. They are experiencing food insecurity, Mr. Speaker. And to make things worse, the Parliamentary Budget Officer has stated that hidden Liberal taxes will increase prices at the pump by 17 cents a litre. Canadian families are struggling. Why did the Liberals just keep adding more hidden taxes which drive up the cost of food? The Honourable Secretary of State for Nature. Mr. Speaker, it's true that things are not always easy for Canadians. What's important, though, is we need to give Canadians back their purchasing power. In order to do so, we are supporting Canadians in a host of ways. We are supporting families. We are supporting through the Canada Dental Care Program, PharmaCare, the School Food Program. These are all examples of how we are giving Canadians back their purchasing power. Not to mention all the other huge investments so that Canadians will have good, well-paying jobs. That's what it means to build Canada better and stronger and react to today's crisis.
Speaker, this Liberal government is the most expensive in Canadian history. Every dollar the Prime Minister spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians and drives up the cost of everything, especially food. The St. Thomas Elgin Food Bank is seeing record demand. 4 out of 5 Canadians say food is their top expense pressure, and the Liberals are standing by their industrial carbon tax, which makes it more expensive to grow, ship, and sell food. Not only are they not scrapping it, they're increasing it. Why is the Prime Minister making life more expensive for Canadians when they can't even get by as it is?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that's a bit rich coming from Poilievre's biographer, but let's talk.
We're not supposed to do that. We're not supposed to do that. The Honourable Member knows. The Honourable Member's an experienced politician who's been on the Hill for a long time. She may continue, however.
Mr. Speaker, let's talk about 2 of the main areas of costs for families. Let's talk about taxes and let's talk about housing. This budget cuts taxes for 22 million Canadians, bringing the basic tax rate down from 15 to 14%. This is a major, major tax cut. It's about $5 billion a year in tax relief for Canadians. 85% goes to the lowest income tax brackets alone. And then on housing, Mr. Speaker, we're making the biggest investment in housing in Canadian history. We are building up the supply of homes, bringing...
The Honourable Member for Elgin, St. Thomas, London South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the plug for my book. If the member read books instead of talking points, the country would be in a better place. Food prices have risen almost 40% faster in Canada than the United States. Beef up 17%, chicken 6.2%, and now the Liberals are adding a fuel tax that will make gas 17 cents a litre more expensive. Driving in my riding in rural Canada is not a luxury, it is a necessity. A tax on gas is a tax on life. When will the Liberals get real and make life more...
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I think it depends on the types of books that a member might want to read. But let's talk about it. Let's talk about books. Mr. Speaker, this week in this House, the Canadian Association, the Canadian Alliance of Student Associations has been on the Hill representing students from across the land. Here is what Abdul Abbasi, the chair of CASA and a student from the University of Alberta, had to say about this budget. Students are pleased to see that the government has met CASA's call for tens of thousands of student jobs in growing economic sectors. This budget is for them. So if the member opposite wants to talk about how education builds...
The Honourable Member for Brampton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, all Canadians deserve to feel safe within their communities. We have critical legislation before this House that is getting stalled by conservative political antics. Will the Minister of Public Safety tell Canadians what our government is doing to combat extortion, strengthen enforcement, and protect Canadians across this country?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Minister of Public Safety.
Speaker, let me thank the member for Brampton Centre for incredible hard work and advocacy. Our government is taking real action to stop those who commit extortion, Mr. Speaker. The Conservatives, however, have failed to support measures like lawful access that law enforcement across Canada have been asking us to implement. They won't support Bill C-2. They won't support Bill C-12. They won't support C-14. They won't support hiring 1,000 new RCMP personnel and 1,000 new CBSA officers. Canadians expect, Mr. Speaker, for their oppositions to work together with their government. Let's stop the rhetoric.
The honourable member for Selkirk Interlake Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, these Liberals are running government like a travelling circus. Take the F-35 procurement, for example. Justin Trudeau said he'd never buy the F-35s. Then the Liberals ordered the F-35s later. Now, this Prime Minister started another review. Then the Minister of National Defence said the review would be done by the end of last summer. But the Secretary of Defence Procurement says, wait, there's no rush. And meanwhile, nobody can figure out what the Ministry of Industry is actually doing. So, once and for all, when will this unnecessary review finally end? And who's actually in charge of buying fighter jets over there?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, as part of our generational investments in the Canadian Armed Forces, we are procuring a new fleet of fighter aircraft for the Royal Canadian Air Force. We review all procurement approaches responsibly to align with the best interests of Canadians and the needs of the CAF. We are committed to procuring what the Air Force needs while ensuring economic benefits for Canadians.
Honourable member for Selkirk Interlake Eastman.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Defence Minister has said that he would take the lead from the Canadian Armed Forces and experts. Well, military experts could not be more clear. Buy the F-35s. His Chief of Defence Staff said it. His Commander of the Air Force has said it. His Deputy Minister has said it. And now over a dozen retired Air Force generals have said it. By dragging on this unnecessary review, these Liberals are undermining our national security and our reputation with our allies. Yes. When will the Defence Minister finally listen to the experts and buy all 88 F-35s that our pilots need to defend Canada?
The Honourable Minister.
Pour répéter, Monsieur le Président, nous procédons.
To repeat, Mr. Speaker, we will be purchasing new planes for the armed forces. We are carefully examining procurement so that it aligns with Canadian interests and the needs of the force. We will purchase what the Air Force needs whilst taking into account economic benefits for Canada. It's very simple, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Yesterday, a shocking expose by Global News outlined how in 2016 the Liberals allowed a Syrian national named Omar al-Qassib, who is a financier of Hamas, to claim refugee status in Canada. On Tuesday, officials revealed that the Liberals have launched a one-touch program that allows refugee claimants to self-declare whether or not they are terrorists when entering Canada. How many Hamas operatives and other terrorists have the Liberals granted refugee status to in the last 10 years?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for the Minister of Citizenship and Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, I would urge colleagues across the way to think twice about putting on the floor of the House of Commons unverified reports from anonymous sources, Mr. Speaker. Security is of paramount importance in this country. That is a sacrosanct principle upheld by successive Conservative and Liberal governments. We maintain that principle from start to finish. As for the comments about the program that was talked about at Immigration Committee, the member knows better.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
For those listening at home, that translates to, they don't know. Global News also reported that an astonishing 450 people with assorted roles in Hamas now have ties to Canada. Last week, the minister was unable to say how many non-citizen criminals and terrorists the Liberals have granted to in an official request. And now Global News is revealing that this terrorist financier has already passed the citizenship test and is awaiting a final decision. How many other terrorists are the Liberals in the process of granting citizenship to?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Continue to cite anonymous sources. on the floor of the House of Commons, Mr. Speaker. The reality is, Mr. Speaker, the reality is that security remains always a fundamental responsibility that we take seriously. When security agencies become aware of potential threats to this country, they act accordingly, and we trust them to do that. As for the point that was raised before, relating to what was discussed this week at Immigration Committee, I say the member knows better because she knows very well that our security system is not upheld by an app, that checks, criminality checks, national security checks, all of these checks are carried out before anyone is allowed in this country, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Wellington, Halton Hills North.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has said that the biggest threat to the security of Canada is Beijing's foreign interference. Parliament passed a law to create a registry to combat this interference a year and a half ago. The government said it would be up and running by year end. The government must consult with opposition leaders and introduce a motion to appoint a commissioner. There's only 3 weeks left before Christmas adjournment. When will the government consult opposition leaders and introduce a motion to appoint a commissioner?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague for the very important question. I just want to assure him, as well as this House, that we'll be moving forward in short order to bring forward the name to the opposition and to have a motion before the House.
The honourable member for Wellington, Halton Hills North.
Mr. Speaker, last election, some candidates were vetoed for foreign interference and others were targeted. And CSIS Director Dan Rogers said just last week that China and Russia continue to target Canada. We've had one federal election without a registry, and we could have a second one at the speed that this government operates. So where is the sense and urgency in getting this registry up and running? Where are the speeds not seen in generations? Where are the consultations with opposition leaders? And where is the motion?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, let me take this opportunity to thank the men and women of CSIS in the work that they do each and every day to protect Canadians. I also want to once again assure my colleague opposite that we will be bringing forward a name in short order, and we will ensure that there's adequate consultation that comes before the House, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Mission Matsqui Abbotsford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Extortion threats in British Columbia are up 481% since 2015. The Liberals voted against our Conservative plan a year ago that would have tackled this crisis with mandatory jail time and removing house arrest as an option for extortion with a firearm. Since their refusal to act, thousands of new extortion cases have exploded across Canada. What do the Liberals have to say to those businesses and victims of crime who have suffered due to their inaction?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, what we have to say to Canadians is that we have a bill in front of the House, Bill C-2, that has very important provision called lawful access that will ensure that crime such as extortion is dealt with in an efficient and speedy manner, Mr. Speaker. This is what law enforcement across Canada, from Abbotsford to every part of the country that I've visited over the last 6 months, have been asking for. It is a bill, it is a component of the bill that's so essential. However, the party opposite has continuously refused to bring forward and to accept lawful access as a very basic principle of Canadian criminal law.
The honourable member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Vaughan, York Region Police recently charged a local man with 4 counts of extortion. This is just one case among countless all across the country. In fact, extortion is up 330% since 2015 all across the country. And despite this, the current Liberal Minister of Justice voted against our Conservative plan to end the extortion crisis last year. A year, Mr. Speaker. They could have been proactive and supported our plan a year ago, and instead they waited for the fire to get out of control. So will they apologize to the thousands of victims who had to suffer because of their inaction?
Yes. Hear, hear. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, it's always funny when I get up in this House and I hear the critic for immigration talking about immigration, that when they systematically slap down any possibility of improving our immigration system prior to the last election. Yes. And now the member for Vaughan Woodbridge stands up and dares members ask, what tools are we putting in place to prevent extortion? He's in the way. Tell the whip to get his boot off the neck of C2 so we can give lawful access provisions to our police to prevent, detain, arrest, and jail extortionists in this country.
The honourable member for Calgary Skyview.
Mr. Speaker, extortion in Canada has exploded by 330% since 2015. Canadians are being terrorized. People are dying. Homes are being sprayed with bullets. And what does the Liberals do? Nothing. Shame. In Calgary, a woman who was convicted in helping with extortion walked away with just 6 months of house arrest, all because of Liberals' soft on crime policies. We presented our Conservative plan a year ago, and Liberals voted it down. What does Minister have to say to the victims for his inaction?
Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, what needs to happen is that the rhetoric needs to stop from across the aisle. What we need to do, Mr. Speaker, is right in front of the House. We have Bill C2, Mr. Speaker, that has lawful access as a very important principle of criminal law. We have Bill C12, the Strong Borders Act. We have C14 that speaks to the need for bail reform as well as sentencing, Mr. Speaker. These are smart criminal justice reforms that's meant to keep Canadians safe, including those who are experiencing extortion, Mr. Speaker. It's time to get serious and for the Conservative Party to come forward and pass this legislation.
The honourable member for Rivière-des-Mille-Îles. Mr. Speaker, public transit is essential to reducing congestion, supporting economic growth and improving the quality of life for Canadians in urban centres from coast to coast to coast. Last week's announcement regarding the REM represents an important step in my riding towards sustainable transportation and improved mobility in the Greater Montreal area. Can the Minister inform the House how this project will strengthen public transit and support our broader efforts to build a cleaner and better connected future for Canadians? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, the announcement on the REM is a significant step forward for sustainable transportation in Montreal, but also for Quebec as a whole. The inauguration of the Deux Montagnes branch will transform the way more than 170,000 people, families, workers and students travel every day. There will be major economic benefits, including the creation of 1,000 permanent jobs in the long term. It will also reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 100,000 tonnes per year. This is an ambitious project worthy of Quebecers and worthy of a strong Canada.
The honourable member for Newtecumseg-Gwillimbury.
Look out, Mr. Speaker, there he goes again. It seems like the Prime Minister just can't wait to jump on a plane and leave the country and at any opportunity he gets. He's been everywhere, to the U.S. twice, then to Italy, Mexico, and Poland, Belgium, the Netherlands, and so many other countries, right across the globe, and now back to the UAE, and yet Canadians are worse off than ever as the cost of living skyrockets faster than the Prime Minister's air miles. Can the Liberals name one tariff that's been reduced because of all that travel?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, we are taking a Team Canada approach to opening new global markets for Canadian workers and businesses. The member opposite should talk to Conservative premiers who applaud the Prime Minister's leadership on the world stage. Let me quote Premier Moe, "We welcome the Prime Minister's efforts to raise Canada's credibility in the international sphere." Premier Doug Ford thanked the Prime Minister for getting Canada out front. Now is not the time to retreat behind curtains like some of the members opposite do. It's time to lean forward and build Canada strong.
Member for Newtecumseg-Gwillimbury.
Speaker, it sounds like any progress on reducing tariffs for Canadians is still up in the air, just like the Prime Minister. Zero results and zero tariffs removed, and that's not good enough. Not when investment in Canada is down $47.6 billion, when our country has the worst per capita growth in the G7, and when Canadians' families are struggling to eat, heat, and house themselves. Mr. Speaker, is this why the Prime Minister is always traveling? So he doesn't have to see the consequences his failures have brought on this country?
That's right. The Honourable Minister of Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation.
All right, instead of reading his air miles plan, why do you read the budget? The only word that the opposition seems to know is no. It's time.
the honourable member should. I'm not going to comment on what I've read recently in the budget or not. But if he could go through the chair, he may continue.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the honourable member for counting air miles instead of reading the budget, but I will say, Mr. Speaker, the only word the opposition seems to know is no. It's time to say yes to building Canada. It's time to say yes to the National School Food Program. They said no. It's time to say yes to building affordable homes. They said no. It's time to say yes to investing in our national defense. They said no. It's time to say yes and build Canada strong.
The honourable member for Bow River.
Brookfield, air miles, I don't know. Mr. Speaker, every time the Prime Minister's wheels up, Canadian bank accounts go down. The Prime Minister has taken 28 trips traveling far enough to circle the Earth almost 4 times. And what do Canadians have to show for it? No new trade deals, no concrete wins, just photo ops, fancy meetings, hollow letters of intent that never return real results. He met with China, higher tariffs on canola. They visited India, tariffs on yellow peas. Meetings in Washington, higher tariffs on softwood. Meetings in the UK, crickets for beef and pork. So I ask, is he even trying to get tariffs removed or just rack up more air miles?
That was a question, wasn't it? Okay. The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Canadians know that 2/3 of our economy is powered by trade. We're opening doors for Canadian products to reach new markets. We've signed new trade deals with Ecuador, with Indonesia. We wrapped up an investment agreement with the UAE. We're advancing negotiations with ASEAN, Philippines, and Thailand. And we have a bill before this House to expand our trade ties with the UK. We are laser focused on opening new markets for Canadian workers and businesses. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Spadina Harbourfront.
Mr. Speaker, last weekend was a defining moment for sport in Canada as the Northern Super League, our country's first professional women's soccer league, held its inaugural championship final at BMO Field in my riding of Spadina Harbourfront. Can the Secretary of Sport share with Canadians how our government is investing in women's sport, including the recent $5.4 million commitment to the Northern Super League to boost local economies and bring communities together?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Sport.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my friend and colleague from Spadina Harbourfront, somebody who knows a thing or two about the fight for gender equity in sport and beyond, Mr. Speaker. We are seeing remarkable progress and momentum in women's professional sport across this country, and a smart, sustainable business model has built the Northern Super League, and it's redefining what's possible in Canada with professional women's sport. That's why 5 of Canada's regional economic development agencies have come together to back the Northern Super League with a strategic federal support of up to $5.45 million. We are helping to strengthen the league's foundation and create new opportunities for fans, communities, and nations and athletes nationwide, Mr. Speaker. I want to congratulate the Vancouver Rise on winning the Diana B. Matheson Trophy and congratulate the Northern Super League on
the Honourable Member for Niagara South.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has circled the globe 4 times, meeting with world leaders for photo ops, meaningless letters of intent, and 0 investments. He's returned with nothing, and after 28 trips, Canadians are fed up. After meeting with China, China imposed more tariffs. After meeting with India, India imposed more tariffs. When he went to the UK, crickets. He went to Washington, and Trump imposed more tariffs. Why is it whenever the Prime Minister hops on a plane for another photo op, Canadian families get stuck with higher tariffs?
Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I want to end this question period, at least the Conservative question. We started this question period talking about a very unfortunate quote from the member from Calgary, Midnapore. I want to draw your attention, Mr. Speaker, to a quote from the member for Algonquin, Renfrew, Pembroke, that I don't think really elevates the nature of debate in this House. She said, in referring to the budget, they would rather die than suffer the way this Liberal government had been making them suffer. I would invite that member to retract her comment. I don't think these excesses of language and quite obviously patently false entries into debate serve anyone.
Well, is the member we'll have to deal with this afterwards.
Make him answer the question.
The Honourable
Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. While the Prime Minister is visiting the United Arab Emirates this week, horrific massacres continue to be perpetrated in Sudan. The Rapid Support Forces, supplied by weapons, with weapons by the UAE, have killed thousands of civilians, and Canadian weapons are reportedly being used in these atrocities. Canada exports millions of dollars worth of arms to the UAE. Will the Prime Minister put an end to these arms deliveries and suspend Canadian defence cooperation with this country until it stops supporting the RSF in Sudan? Or will Canada... End of question inaudible for the interpreter.
Je sais pas si on peut...
I don't know if I could be informed if the sound was cut part of the question. The sound was cut during part of the question. Can the member start again? Halfway through, there was a cut in the sound. Whilst the Prime Minister is visiting the United Arab Emirates this week, horrific massacres continue to be perpetrated in Sudan. The Rapid Support Forces, supplied with weapons by the UAE, have killed thousands of civilians. And Canadian weapons are reportedly being used in these atrocities. Canada exports millions of dollars worth of arms to the UAE. Will the Prime Minister put an end to these arms deliveries and suspend Canadian defence cooperation with this country until it stops supporting the RSF in Sudan? Or will Canada continue to be complicit in yet another horrific war?
Excusez-moi,
the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister for Foreign Affairs. Thank you. Canada condemns the atrocities happening in Sudan. They have to stop. We are horrified by the recent attacks in Al-Fasher, and we condemn the presumed massacre of 2,000 civils. Everyone must protect civilians and must allow unfettered access to humanitarian aid. Canada will continue to support the Sudanese people, as it has done from the very beginning of the conflict. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Nunavut.
The government has legal obligations to First Nations children, but the minister has stopped doing the work. This inaction is costing children their lives. The National Children's Chief Commission is being ignored. The Liberals would rather pay lawyers to fight with First Nations children. Will the minister commit to permanently stop discriminating against First Nations children, or will she continue to make lawyers rich?
And the honourable Minister of Indigenous Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First Nations children need to be guided by self-determination, and that is the poll that we are using to proceed with this work. I have on multiple occasions met with many people looking to serve and bring forward solutions for Indigenous children in community, and I think this is what I invite my colleague to do with me, is to find that path forward and respond to the urgency that is needed in this file for solutions that will deliver the proper care for children surrounded by their family, in community, in their own language, by those that care for them the most. Thank you.
And that concludes question period.